I wanted to record a few short videos that display some of my collections. This collection, you see the stack here, this is a collection of children's books, and the special thing about these is that these books feature little puppets. And when I was a very little girl, I remember having these books. And the one thing that I really remember most, and this is when I was maybe two or three, was the cover. The covers of all of these books had this little 3D hologram sticker. This one's coming kind of loose. That was kind of the bad part, was that these books, even though they had these really nice stickers on the front, it seems like they would come off quickly or children would peel them. So these days when I look for these books, I find so many that don't have the little 3D hologram anymore, so I was real pleased to find this one. And I hope that the camera is able to capture maybe some of the details. I know it may not be perfectly clear here, but when you move the books left to right, it almost appears like the little characters are moving around. And for me, when I was little and there was so little technology, I thought that was magic. And I guess that's one of the things that kept these books in my mind all these decades later. So I hope you'll enjoy taking a look at this book and some of my others. And I'm going to just flip through some of the pages. I'll read portions of the book. But mostly I just wanted you to kind of see the puppets and the pictures. And they made quite a lot. Here's a list on the back of all the books that they made. There were 14 books back then. Everything from The Three Little Pigs to Jack and the Beanstalk to Cinderella. And I've got some of those here in this stack. These are all the ones that I've managed to collect. This one was one of my favorites though, because I actually had this one. And so I was really thrilled to get this. And you'll see when you look inside, pictures are just beautiful. They're actually puppets and backgrounds. Everything is very realistic, even though they're puppets. The grass, the trees, and I think the pages themselves, the actual art, the puppets, this was all printed in Japan. And then an American publisher, in this case Playmore Publishers in New York, brought the pictures here and of course applied all of the English text. So sometimes you can find these in Japanese. I haven't been lucky enough to find any, but I do know that they made them. And if you can tell, even in this picture, there's Hansel and Gretel and their little hay bed and their wicked stepmother and their father who loved them very much. You can just tell all the detail. This is an actual little wood ladder and a wooden barrel. And over here is a gas lamp and the shutters on their window and their little door. And this is where the stepmother tells the father that they have to take the children into the woods and leave them because they can't feed them anymore. They're too poor. So this is where the parents take Hansel and Gretel into the woods for a picnic. And Hansel is smart enough to drop stones, little white stones all along the path so that they can get back home. If you can see, little stones and the trees. So of course they do get back home this first time. And the stepmother doesn't give up, so she takes them for a picnic again the next day. And he didn't have any more stones, but Hansel filled his pockets with breadcrumbs. And when he tried to drop the breadcrumbs along the path, of course the birds ate the breadcrumbs and they weren't able to follow the path home. I like the flowers. I like all those flowers. But what they do find, of course, is the gingerbread house. And in the picture, this is an actual gingerbread house with candy and graham crackers and sugar and little gingerbread men. And Hansel and Gretel, of course, are posed in the front. And all these cookies along here. I just thought that was really neat. But you know how the story goes. Inside the house was a wicked witch who put Jack into a little cage to fatten him up. And she made Gretel sweep the floors and do the housework. And Gretel was very afraid. And just as the witch was preparing and stoking the fire to cook Hansel, Gretel bravely pushed the witch into the hot oven. So they were free to go back home, and they even had found a large box of jewels at the witch's house and brought all the jewels home with them. And how glad the woodcutter was to see his children. He told them the mean stepmother was dead. So they sold all the jewels, and they lived happily ever after. Come to think of it, that's a pretty violent story for children, isn't it? Still charming, though. And back then, I was a little scared of the witch. But this was one of my favorite books. And I hope you enjoyed this little video. Thanks for watching.